Ferrari turns 86 this year, and while the world drools over red racing beasts, Enzo Ferrari himself had a totally different taste. Forget V12s, the man who built the most powerful car brand on earth actually drove simple cars like Minis and French Peugeots, and only owned one Ferrari in his later years. Yep, the founder of Ferrari didn't even like driving Ferraris. Now that's shocking. So let's take a look into one of the most personal garages in automotive history. 1967, Mini 1100S. Enzo Ferrari, the man who built Ferrari, actually had a soft spot for the tiny Mini. John Cooper confessed that Enzo Ferrari had ordered 3 Mini Cooper S, and that he used them to drive on the nearby mountain roads. Among the 2, or maybe even 3 Minis he owned, this one is the most famous, and in fact, Mini itself confirmed that Enzo drove the 1100S. It was handed to him personally by Mini's own creator, Sir Alec Isagonis. The car came with sporty seats, a walnut dashboard, and even extra fog lights under the headlights. Enzo loved it for its clever engine and suspension, and even though he was tall, the Mini fit him perfectly. Race legend John Cooper once revealed, Enzo Ferrari owned 3 different Cooper S's at different times, which he used to go up in the hills and tear around with when he got bored. At first the car was painted red, but Enzo insisted only a Ferrari could wear red, so it was repainted grey. Later, someone painted it red again. Its engine was tuned to reach 95 miles per hour. Enzo later gave it to his son Piero after receiving a 1300S version, and then it went to Giuseppe Navone, a Ferrari test driver and Mille Miglia winner. And guess what? This same Mini is still alive today. 1969, Fiat 128. Enzo Ferrari began his journey as a test and racing driver, first competing for CMN and later Alfa Romeo. Ironically, he never raced for Ferrari, the company he would go on to create. He may have built some of the fastest cars in the world, but one of the most surprising cars linked to him was the 1969 Fiat 128. Fiat even ran a commercial claiming, "Enzo Ferrari drives a Fiat 128 every day." Now, that sounded shocking, because at the same time, Fiat owned 50% of Ferrari. So, of course, seeing the man behind Ferrari in a small family car was powerful marketing. But there has never been an independent source that confirmed he truly drove it daily. Still, the Fiat 128 was amazing for its time. Designed by Dante Giacosa with an engine from Aurelio Lampredi, it produced 55 horsepower, had responsive steering, and ran smoothly on city roads and B roads. It was quiet, practical, and a pioneer in front-wheel drive cars. The Fiat 128 perfectly matched Enzo's habit of choosing simple 4-cylinder sedans. Did he actually use it every day? We might never know, but the story made this little car legendary. 1966, Peugeot 404 Saloon. Enzo Ferrari's daily car in the late 1960s was not a Ferrari, but a 1966 Peugeot 404 Saloon. It was metallic grey with beige leather seats, fitted with a Nardi steering wheel and fog lamps taken from a Lancia Flaminia. Enzo used it from 1966 to 1968, and at first he drove it himself, but later due to knee problems, he had a chauffeur. This choice surprised many people, but there were reasons behind it. Some believe it was because of his close bond with Battista Pininfarina, who designed for both Ferrari and Peugeot. Others say his sister influenced him, and Peugeot's name for being practical and comfortable also mattered. The Ferrari racing team at that time also used Peugeot 404 station wagons as support cars. Dino Tagliazucchi, who worked as Enzo's driver, recalled in an interview, "The boss drove a metallic grey 404 sedan with beige leather upholstery and a radio." The recent film Ferrari also showed this detail, proving that the man who created some of the most powerful cars in history chose a simple French saloon for his daily life. 1973, Peugeot 504 Coupe. Enzo Ferrari replaced his Peugeot 504 sedan with the 1973 Peugeot 504 Coupe, and this was the car he drove for almost 4 years. Designed by Pininfarina, it had a mix of elegance and reliability that suited him perfectly. The interiors came in blue or velvet, and its robust engineering made it both comfortable and durable. By this time, Enzo mostly rode as a passenger, because of mobility issues, as we all know, but he still preferred the understated look of this car. He never liked to flaunt wealth, and the Peugeot gave him a humble image compared to the flashy Ferraris that carried his name. People often say, Ferrari avoided ostentatious displays of wealth, and this choice proves it. What makes it even more interesting is that the 504 Coupe was actually the first stylish car he picked for himself. Even if it could never match the Ferrari 365 GTB/4 his own factory was building then. 1992. Ferrari 456 GT. The 1992 Ferrari 456 GT is truly valued, as it was the very last model personally approved by Enzo Ferrari before he passed away. This was Ferrari's return to the front-engine V12 setup after years, and it came with a massive 5.5-liter V12 producing 442 horsepower that could go from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in just 5.2 seconds and a top speed of 192 miles per hour. Imagine that, a four-seater that could outrun almost anything on the road. In fact, it was considered the world's second fastest four-seater car back then. The design was done by Pietro Camardella at Pininfarina, inspired by the legendary 365 GTB Daytona. It had an elegant aluminum body, a 6-speed manual gearbox, and advanced ergonomics that made it both fast and comfortable. Truly, it marked a new era for Ferrari. 1985. Ferrari 412. The 1985 Ferrari 412 sitting in Enzo Ferrari's garage was the final evolution of Ferrari's famous 2+2 Grand Tourers, and it carried a 4.9-liter V12 engine that pushed out around 340 horsepower. It was powerful, classy, and ahead of its time. The 412 was one of the very first Ferraris to come with ABS brakes as standard, which was a big deal back then. This car had a fresh design too, with a higher boot line, deeper front spoiler for better aerodynamics, and body-colored bumpers that gave it a modern touch while still keeping the Ferrari soul alive. Inside, Ferrari made things more driver-focused with redesigned seats and a new control layout. Only 576 units were ever made between 1985 and 1989, making it rare from the start. What's even more interesting is that Enzo never allowed this model to be sold in the US because of strict safety and environmental rules. The 412 marked the end of a Ferrari line that began back in 1973, and Enzo's own car was one of the most refined Grand Tourers of its era. 1979. Ferrari 400i. The Ferrari 400i was one of the last front-engined V12 cars built under Enzo's leadership. Designed by Leonardo Fioravanti at Pininfarina, the 400i looked like a luxury sedan, but carried the heart of a Ferrari, as it produced 310 horsepower at first and later 315 after a 1982 update. With a 4.8-liter V12 created by Gioacchino Colombo, it could still push to 149 miles per hour and hit 0 to 60 in about 7.1 seconds. It was also the first Ferrari to use Bosch fuel injection, moving away from carburetors. Enzo himself drove this car as his company car, which tells you how much he valued its elegance. Buyers had a choice of a 5-speed manual or a 3-speed automatic by BorgWarner, and most people went for the automatic. Inside, you got leather seats, air conditioning, electric windows, and in 1982, updated gauges and switches. Out of 1,305 units, 883 were automatic and only 422 were manual. Famous names like Gianni Agnelli and Sergio Pininfarina owned one too. 1972, Ferrari 365 GTB 42+2. Enzo himself never loved driving cars for show, yet this model was introduced right under his leadership. It was a front-engined V12 Grand Tourer, designed by Pininfarina, built for comfort as well as power. The name had a hidden code. 365 meant 365 cubic centimeters per cylinder. GT4 stood for 4 overhead camshafts, and the 2+2 marked its 4-seat setup. Enzo was picky about where Ferraris went, so this car was never officially sold in the US because he believed American speed limits and rules would never do justice to its power. And here's a fun fact that you might not know. That iconic prancing horse badge on the Ferrari, the one the world knows today, came from Francesco Baracca, a World War I hero. His mother suggested Enzo use it, and he added a yellow background to honor Modena, his hometown. 1960 Ferrari 250 GT 2+2. Now this one is really special. The 1960 Ferrari 250 GT 2+2, also called the 250 GTE, was the very first four-seater Ferrari ever made in large numbers. Enzo Ferrari wanted a car that could mix racing spirit with everyday use, and that is exactly what this car did. With the famous 3-liter Colombo FIV12 engine, it pushed out around 240 horsepower. Enzo even showed off its strength by making it the official course car at the 1960 24 Hours of Le Mans. Imagine Ferrari's boss driving this beauty in front of the world's toughest race. Ferrari's home was right beside his personal test track, Fiorano, so he could watch prototypes race by while relaxing in his office. Sometimes, he would go for late-night drives in his pajamas just to clear his mind. From 1960 to 1963, Ferrari built 954 of them, making it one of their most successful road cars then. It was practical enough for Enzo's family, his chauffeur, and even his dog. Enzo once said, "It had to be a Ferrari, but also a family Ferrari," and that is exactly what made it so iconic. Enzo Ferrari preferred to stay out of the spotlight, letting his cars and company speak for themselves, which earned him nicknames like Il Commendatore, Il Drake, and Il Cavaliere. If you had access to the world's greatest cars, would you choose humble daily drivers like Enzo, or go all out with Ferraris? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe, because trust me, you'll want to be here when we uncover the next legend.